Now this video is all about how to put together our candle tower. It's designed to hold 3 electric candles and give you some pretty flickering lights associated with those. We'll open this box up again and start to look at the pieces and parts. As always, first make sure you take your screw kit and put it aside so that it's safe and it's ready to use. And then we'll zoom in with the candle in just a minute and take a look at the various pieces of wood that are part of this project. All right, now that we've got your bag open, let's take a look at the different pieces and parts for making this candle tower and how the pieces and parts go together. In your box, you're going to find a top and 2 squares of wood that look like frames. Those we're going to use later to build the top together. So from a decorating standpoint, you want to make sure you decorate the top. We were thinking with the leaves, what you'll want to do is color them one color and the outside leaves another color. And you really have 2 choices with this. If you want it to be a focus of fall and holiday decorations and make it bright and pretty, or make it subtle and make it something you can leave out all year long and use as just a little pretty decoration in the corner. You're also in this box going to find 3 shelves. These are going to be inside the tower itself. If you're looking down inside, you'll see we've got 3 shelves inside. So when the top is off, you can see them. You can also see inside the box through the holes. So you'll probably want to decorate both the top and bottom of these at least a little bit. Then you'll have your box bottom, and you're going to make sure that you decorate the bottom side of it if you want people to pick it up and look at the underside. And you're also going to decorate all 4 of these walls. Make sure, as with all of this wood, that you sand things carefully so that it can be decorated nicely. So what you're going to do now is you're going to sand and paint, stain, color, brush, do whatever you want to do to make your box perfectly pretty. Make sure the pieces are all nice and dry, and then come back and watch the rest of the video. Now that you've got all of your pieces decorated, let's look at how to assemble your candle tower. You'll notice you've got a bag with 4 candles in it, electric candles in it. We'll come back and play with those in a minute. But let's start with how to assemble the candle. And I'm going to start with the easy part of this, which is putting together the top. To assemble the top, all you're going to need to do is glue these frames nice and square down against the top surface. So I'm just going to put a little line of glue around these, and that way we can get these pieces out of our way. And when we open our screw kit, we won't be looking at those as well. So we'll just take that piece for 1 second. Make sure you glue it on nice and square. I'm giving you a little bit of play in the lid, but not a lot. So we want to make sure you get these on as good as you can and as square and as smooth as you can. Again, it's all about how pretty can you make it be. And I'm going to put this one on with the pretty side up, since I haven't decorated the bottoms of all of it. We know people are going to take the lid off and want to look at all of what you're doing, which is going to be truly amazing. So that's my lid. I'm going to put it on the side. So now let's open the screw kit and kind of take a look at what the pieces are that we're going to have here. In my screw kit, what I should find are 16 3/8 inch screws and 16 3/8 inch nuts and a set of feet. So that's pretty easy as well. This is the bottom, and I flip it over because we're going to want to glue against it. And this is the most challenging part of this. Is what we're going to look for is to make sure we can match the holes to the sides that they're against. So you'll see that I've got one that's got a low bar here. So this one is going to fasten to this low connector over here. That one's up high, so I need the one that has a high connector on it. And that's my connector piece for my shelf. And then last but not least, I've got a low connector piece for my shelf there. So you can see that I've got to make sure these all fit straight across, because that's how these pieces will go together. So then what we're going to do is we're going to first make sure it all fits nicely. So I'm going to start by putting that side here and putting this side against it. But if I put that in, I need to make sure my shelf will stay attached. So I'm going to go ahead and slide my shelf in. My shelf should just go straight into this hole, like so, on one side, and fit in nicely, and straight into this hole on the other side and fit in nicely. And once I've done that, I've got the first two sides of my box ready to put together. Now to hold it together, we're going to use our screw sets and slowly screw it together. So I'm going to go ahead and finish putting the other two pieces in. I know I've got a shelf that's going to go in here. So we'll slide that one into that one. Take the top piece that belongs to that. Fasten those two together like so. Make sure that shelf gets caught in its hole. And then I have one more shelf to put in, so I'm going to put it on this side and put my last wall in and get that hole to line up as well. So now I've got my box all set up and ready to go, and I'm going to start by just flipping it over and start with the bottom. You can start with the sides if you want to, if you're having trouble, but I think this is going to work nicely to start with the bottom, and we'll get this bottom in. So the easiest way to screw these together then is going to be just to put this in this slot a little bit like so. Take my screw, and I'm going to put a little drop of glue on it to make sure that the screw threads hold that screw in. And I'm going to glue it together. Now notice, the other thing you could have done is you could actually glue your box together first. And that's certainly an option as well. Depends how well you want it to hold together, how many options you want to have if you ever decide you need to take it apart. Gluing it together is a great thing. The other option for gluing it together, of course, will be to put some little drops of glue across the top. I'm just going to fasten it together with these screws. Since I've got 16 screws going into it, that should be plenty to hold my entire box together. So I'm going to balance that ever so carefully there. That gives me two hands to again put my glue on this screw, slide it into this hole, and get it started. And then I'm just going to keep my finger here to make sure that stays in place where we want it to go as I start threading that nut in. So I've got those two in. I'm going to do one on each of the other sides to make that a little easier too. Lots of different options again for how to put this together. And we're going to let you figure out what best methodology works for you for putting these glued screws in and for gluing the box together as a whole. The most important thing, though, as you glue this together is to make sure those shelves are in it first. Because if the shelves aren't in it, you're not going to have a place to put your candles. And we definitely want a place for the candles. So we'll drop this one in the hole. I'm enough of a klutz that it's much easier for me if I can get the nut to sit flat to put it together. And if you've got small hands like I do, anything to make this easier is really important. And I've got one last one on this to get to the last side, and then we'll finish up the bottom. like so. Once it's started, it'll actually pull up and pull that nut tight against that piece of wood for you, so it can't possibly go anywhere. And then we're going to repeat that process with these last 3 on the bottom. I'm really excited to see the pictures of what you do with this box. So make sure you, if you post them on Facebook, you tag Steamy Tech, or you message them to us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or send us an email and we'll post them on our Facebook page for you. We'd love to see what kinds of exciting things you are doing with these projects. And this one is clearly all about the art. So you're going to make some really cool art, and I want to see what art you made when you put this one together. One more on the bottom. Slip that in. Put a little glue on my last nut. Let's slide that in and get it started, and we'll get this last bottom screw on so the box is all held together nicely. And then I'm going to go do the sides. So what I'm going to do here is, again, the same thing. I'm just going to flip it on its side, put the nut and the screw on the bottom. Now my hands are big enough that I can put my fingers through to do this one, which makes things a little bit easier from a screwing it in standpoint, but certainly not a requirement. Put those together. Oops, and I lost the nut. Like I said, it really helps to be able to put your hand inside. In the hole, put the screw in, and mine is trying to come apart here, so I'm actually using my fingers to hold the 2 sides together as well. If you glued the sides together, you won't struggle with that problem nearly so much. Do this last one on, second one on this side. And so we are now 10 screws in of the 16 that we need to put in when we get this one done. Turn that in a little more. Get that going. And we'll flip this over and do the next side and do it exactly the same way. I'm going to slip this in here. Put a dot of glue on my nut, drop it through the hole. Use my extra fingers on my left hand to hold all of that together. I'm very right-handed. If you're left-handed, you're going to have to figure out how to turn this the other way. I can't possibly do this with my left hand, even if I wanted to. I'm not nearly that ambidextrous, but it should be fairly straightforward. Zoom, 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 and we'll start this screw. Go to the next side. 4 more screws to go, and 4 more nuts. That's good. I actually had all the right screws and nuts in my bag. Tighten that down. Go to the next one, put this nut in here. And when it flies all the way around, then you'll know that you need to stop and pull it out and start again. Put my screw in the top. Tighten that down. Now, if you have an electric screwdriver, Professor Steam actually likes using an electric screwdriver to put these together better than I do. I think they should all be assembled by hand, but that's partly because I'm not coordinated enough. He just uses his electric screwdriver, sets the nut there, and goes zip, zip, zip with his electric screwdriver to get it all done. Tighten that in like so. And I have one last nut to put in. When you lose it, you flip it out of the box again. Bound to happen. Put my last dot of glue on my last screw. Drop that through the top. Tighten that down. If you did not glue the slides together and you want to use a little glue, you could put a drop of glue across those 4 corners up there to make sure that the box stays all together. And maybe put your glue in and put a couple of drops of glue on the bottom. With the screws in place, unless you're like carrying heavy things in this box, you should be fine. Now, we need to make sure we do the bottom, so I'm going to go flip it over and again put the 4 drops of glue in place for my 4 sticky feet. Put my 4 sticky feet on here. This box has feet on every project, shockingly enough. One, 2, and 3, and 4 feet. Now, if you watched the tea light video already, you'll have already opened up your box, but I'm going to go ahead and open up my package of tea lights here. And you'll notice that you've got 4 tea lights ready to go. We're using electric ones here, partly because I don't believe in using glue, using wood and candles, real candles next to each other. But these are definitely flickering tea lights. They flicker nicely and look really pretty. I'm going to turn those on and drop them on the 3 shelves in the box and put the top on my box. And I have a candle tower all ready to go. If you decided you were going to put a real candle in here, the one place you probably could put one is on the bottom shelf or the second shelf, but if you do that, make sure you put it in a glass container and watch it really carefully. I recommend, and we strongly recommend, not using real candles in here just because you are putting something in a wood box and you want to be really careful with it. Thank you so much.